Nicole Hayes, for those who don't know you, can you share a little bit about your business, what it means to you, and some of the goals that you have for it?
Well, my name is Pinky Cole Hayes. I'm the founder and CEO of Slutty Vegan ATL, Bar Vegan ATL, the Pinky Cole Foundation, American Sesh, and I'm the CEO of my children. And what that all means to me is I am a dot connector. What I do really well is I know how to put people, places, and things together. And I've been doing that a long time. But what I'm really, really passionate about is my foundation and giving back. I've been doing that for a very long time and helping to bridge the generational wealth gap. And I use my businesses as a vessel to be able to connect those dots with people from around the world. So yeah.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And just kind of, looking at your social media and some of the impact that you've made, you recently went back to Clark Atlanta University. I think it was for the 2022 graduating class. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about, what you did and what that meant for you and the people you helped.
Well, first of all, I went to Clark Atlanta University, and I became the youngest commencement speaker there. So if you know anything about colleges, like to be a commencement speaker at a university is a really, really big deal. And then for me to do it, I'm a former Miss Clark Atlanta University. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I competed in the Miss America pageant system by way of my institution. And I just did so much at school. So to come back and to be a commencement speaker was a really, really big deal for me and such a major accomplishment.
Yes.
But not only did I do the commencement speech, I offered all 800 plus students who were graduating the opportunity to get LLCs that they did not have to pay for. And let me tell you why that was so critical at that time. It was critical, one, because most often, if not all the time, people who graduate from college do not have a plan. I surely didn't have a plan. I thought that I was going to have a plan. Here it is. I'm the most popular girl in school. Like, I have all of these relationships, but I can't get an internship and I cannot get a job. Okay. So I had to learn a lot by falling on my face a lot. So when I did this commencement speech, I needed to be able to give the students something that, one, they would remember, two, something that would set them up for success. Like, if I'm going to do this, I want them to be able to be prepared for what the real world really looks like, and that's providing them an LLC. So, some people may have said, well, why would you give them an LLC? What can that do for them? Well, it could do a lot. Yeah. One, it gives them the opportunity to be able to create and carve out their own lane of entrepreneurship, even if you decide to go work for someone else. And two, even if you put your cell phone in your business name, you get to build up your business credit and you get to understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur early on. And out of those 800 plus students who graduated, I can guarantee you that at least 10% became millionaires. So, I like to think of it as long as one person made it out, they can open up the vessel for other people to walk through that door to be successful. And I believe that's really what success is, utilizing your resources to provide other opportunities for people so that they can pay it forward and do the same thing. So that was really, really a big moment in my professional and my personal life. And I'm happy that I got to do it. And the best feeling in the world is to see so many people come up to me and say, Pinky, thank you. I was one of the recipients of the LLC.
That's absolutely incredible. I really share and connect with, that last statement you said, having people come back, right? Yeah. And just say thank you for giving. Being an educator and helping people is just extremely powerful. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
One of your famous quotes is, failure is not fatal, it's fertilizer. Can you just share, one of your early challenges, right, that kind of built you, molded you, into that way of thinking?
Oh, early challenges. I got early challenges. I got late challenges. My middle name is Challenge. The beautiful part about entrepreneurship is I'm faced with challenges every day. But what's even more beautiful is that I get to solve problems every day. Yeah. So early on, I've had to navigate in business, growing a company and just being a creator and not being an operator, yes. Right? A lot of people don't talk about that. They talk about you can come up with great ideas, but can you really run a business? Exactly. So I had to learn the hard way. I had a lot of people come and go. And I also probably wasn't the best leader early on, right?
Yeah.
I have since evolved as a leader and a student of the game. You know, sometimes people think that just because you're in the front of the line that you don't have to take criticism or you don't, have to listen to the people who are standing behind you. But that's where you get the most insight and wisdom. And it took me a while to learn that. And I've learned that along the way. Some other things that I've learned is I actually lost my company and had to buy back. Yes. That was a big challenge. And, that wasn't an early challenge. That just happened recently. But the most beautiful part about that was I got the opportunity to buy my business back. And, when I look at my life and my professional career, I realized that God needed that to happen, right? God wanted me to go through that so that I can have range, so I could build my testimony, so that when somebody is watching this, they can feel like they can go on because they've seen exactly what I went through, because when you talk about challenges, I've probably had the hardest 2 years that I've ever had in my life.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you imagine? I grew a $100 million brand, made millions for 7 years straight, millions, right? Yes. But I had a lot of debt. And people see the highlight reel, but they don't see what happens when the door is closed. They don't see the sleepless nights when you got to have a conversation with just you and God and nobody else, right? You know what I mean?
I do.
And I'm so happy. I wasn't happy in the moment, but now when I look back at it, I said, you know what? My life now is on display. And I believe that God needed to put me on display so that I can encourage, empower, and inspire so many people that feel like giving up. Because once upon a time I was there, and how can I educate and teach if I can't look you in the eye and say, you know what, I've been there. I know exactly how you feel. So don't worry, it won't last forever. So, I embrace those challenges. And even today, I've had challenges, but I know that challenges don't last always. And the sun will always come out tomorrow. I know that's the song, but it's true.
Hey, maybe we can sing later.
Yes.
I love that. What really allows you to approach leadership the way that you approach it? And, you talked a little bit about the community impact, but really, where do you want to take that? Where do you see the community impact going?
I believe that Slutty Vegan and all the businesses that I've created has served as a vessel for me. That is the beginning. It is not the end. I believe that I have been put on this earth to help people and bring people together. And partially because I watched my mother do it. Like, my mother has helped anybody who needed help. Like, we grew up in a Jamaican household. My father served 22 years in prison. So I watched my mother not only be dedicated to the same company for 37 years now, still at the same company. I also watched her be an entrepreneur at the same time. And then I also saw her being the breadwinner for our family in Jamaica. So she has always had a heart to give. And when I was a kid, I never understood it. But I believe that we all have an assignment. God has given my mother the assignment, and in turn, I received an assignment which is similar to hers, and that assignment is to give. Yes. So when my story transcends, right, to something else, I want people to remember the fact that when I put my hands on something, it made people better, people, places, and things. Yes. And I'm in the business of making people better. So if I'm around you and you don't feel like you can walk through a brick wall after we're done, then I didn't do my job. And I feel like that is a part of my assignment. And don't ask me why. It just feels right in my spirit. And I know that God gave me that vision to be able to be a steward to help people. And I've been doing that for a very long time. And I honestly believe that's why, even in my darkest days, God always blesses me, because that good karmic energy and the fact that I always have a genuine heart to give and help people and see other people win. One of my favorite lines that I say all the time is, as you climb, you must lift. So the more I climb to the ladder of success, and the more, let's talk about accolades for a second, right?
Yes.
I made the Time 100 list. I made the Forbes list twice. I covered the cover of Essence magazine, Black Enterprise magazine. I made the cover of Inc. magazine. I've made all the Bloomberg lists. I've made all the top 40 most powerful women. But what brings me the most joy is when I can go on my social media and raise $270,000 for a business that's on the verge of closing their doors and do it in 7 days. What brings me joy is to know that people say, you know what, Pinky, just your words of encouragement have saved my life. That is the part that brings me true joy. So my legacy is going to be that, right? The Pinky effect is what I like to call it. I want to be able to have an effect on people where after they consume me, they feel like they can conquer the world.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Hearing a little bit about, your heritage, right, the Jamaican culture. What is that like for you, right? Living here in the U.S., being raised, but also having a Jamaican-born mother. Just share a little bit more for that, because there's a lot of people out there who look like you, have similar experiences, and they should be proud of them, right? Really stand on that heritage.
I never thought in my life that I say that I would understand how biracial people feel, but like to the Jamaicans, I wasn't Jamaican enough. To the Americans, I wasn't American enough. But I think that was a competitive advantage for me, because there is power in being the underdog. You know what I'm saying? There is power in not fitting in, because you always continue to strive and you always continue to work hard, no matter if you're proving it to yourself or anybody else. But what I got from growing up in a single parent household with a father who was incarcerated is I learned about courage. I learned not to beg, borrow, steal, right? I learned to operate with integrity and honesty and loyalty, which is key, because, it's 2025. Loyalty is not something that people just innately have, right? And I grew up that way. I grew up with an honor and a trust system. And I'm so happy that I did that. I'm happy that I grew up that way, because as I operate in business, I'm mindful on who I choose to do business with. You know what I mean? I only do business with people who are honest. I don't do business with people who aren't honest with their spouses. I don't do business with people that lie to me, right? And, I've learned that growing up with a stern mother who was very militant, who didn't play around about bills, who was very responsible, who made sure that, she was very frugal. And, people call me cheap all the time. I'm like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've learned that from my mother, but those are the things that I can carry on and teach my kids. I can teach them about responsibility. I can teach them about integrity and honesty and having character and loving yourself and loving others around you, and being a steward and helping those around you. But I learned that growing up in that household. And then more importantly, I learned what good food tastes like. So the reason why I have been so successful with Slutty Vegan is because I like to eat. And the reason why I like to eat is because growing up, we had a meal every single day of the week except Friday. Like, I probably ate McDonald's once a month. And I never grew up eating candy. So like, just the household was different. The thought process was different. The food consciousness was different. So I can translate that to my children. And even now I'm married, I can also translate that to my husband, because we have two totally different upbringings, but he gets to learn a lot about my Jamaican background, just being around me and being around my family.
So that's amazing. One thing I share with you is that culinary passion. So I got my culinary degree early. I love being in the kitchen, just having that family time with people. But let's talk a little bit more about, the veganism, right? And how, one, Americans are just oblivious, right? As you're saying, the dual households, even with your husband and you. But, what really inspired you to be a pioneer in that, right? Just to get up and be a difference.
Well, it's interesting because I grew up in a vegetarian household. So I have never seen my mother eat meat, ever. Never seen her wear makeup. She never wore earrings, never shaved, like very natural, conscious woman. So my mother is a Rastafarian, and that's Ethiopian Christianity. So we couldn't eat pork in the house. My grandmother would sneak and make chicken here and there, but I grew up eating fish, okay? I grew up pescatarian. So I already had a competitive advantage because I didn't need meat to survive, right? So when I got older in 2007, I actually ditched meat completely and I was just eating fish. But I've always been this person where I'm on a cucumber challenge, I'm doing 1 meal a day, I'm fasting. I've always been that person because I'm always trying to elevate my consciousness. And how do you do that? You challenge yourself. You remove things that you like. You put yourself in position that requires you to sacrifice something, right? And I did that a lot growing up. So one day, it was in 2013, I believe, I said, you know what? I'm just going to stop eating everything altogether and I'm just going to go vegan cold turkey. And when I tell you, I went cold turkey. And, it's interesting when I look back at my life, I feel like this was the path that was already written for me. I was just I wasn't even in the driver's seat. I was in the passenger seat. God was in the driver's seat, right? And I literally said, you know what? I'm going to do this cold turkey, and God would have it that I would create a business off of something who I naturally am, right? I'm naturally vegan. I naturally want to share really good recipes with my friends. And now I make a business out of it. So think about this. I make this is my passion. This is who I am. I like to feed my friends. And then I can get compensated right? That is what you call purpose. You can do it for free. You can inspire and help other people. And then as an end result of that, you get paid to do it. Like, it's a win-win-win. So when I think about Slutty Vegan is not just a concept that I'm like, okay, I just want to make some money. It was never about that. It was about the fact that I wanted to help people to reimagine food. And if I can help them reimagine food, then I can change the world. And I know that sounds cliche, but imagine, I got a brand called Slutty Vegan. I am forcing you to create dialogue. First of all, who in the world told this girl to name this brand Slutty? Yeah. Slutty is a word that's derogatory. No, you can't say that, right? Yeah. But now I got old people, young people, Christians, Muslims saying the word slutty, and I'm redefining what it means to be a slut, and it has nothing to do with anything derogatory. Yes. What it is helping people have a conversation about what it is that you consume, whether it's food, whether it's energy, whether it's people, whether it's music. I'm reimagining all of those things. And now, I've been in business for 7 years. When I tell you my demographic is white, it's black, it's Asian, it's old, it's young, it's women, it's men. So this is the most beautiful form of silent protest that you've ever seen, right? Because I bring people together, no matter your socioeconomic background, no matter how much you make, no matter where you come from, I'm bringing people together in the name of food. And when somebody can do that, it's a recipe for success.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. That story, your passion. I mean, I literally feel it in the room, and so for our viewers, she has incredible energy, guys. Like the love and the passion that she has.
It's vegan.
It's vegan. It's vegan. It's vegan. So let's just talk a little bit about, your children, right? And your family. Like you started your business before you had kids. Right, and you've had this vision, and God has put this into your life, but now you have 3 beautiful children, right?
So impossible. No, I'm kidding.
Ooh, no, that was a joke. We could drop that. We could drop that.
Ain't nothing up in there. It's a joke.
Hey, I'll take them. I'll take them. You bring me 10 more. All right. But how has having the kids in the home and being just an amazing mom, has that changed your perspective or enlightened your perspective in any way?
It's interesting because for the people who don't know, I got pregnant in 2020. I had a baby in 21. I had a baby in 22. And I had a baby in 23. So we've been hot in the kitchen for a very long time. I don't know if I can say that on this program. But I have had a lot of children very fast, considering the fact that a doctor once told me that I could not have kids.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't even know if you knew that.
Wow.
Because I had fibroids. And they were blocking my fallopian tubes. So my dreams of having children, I was just like, okay, I guess I'll just be the hot auntie. Exactly. I'll be the auntie that's just rocking out. But as fate would have it, I started having kids and I couldn't stop. So after having all those children really fast, there's a big transition. My husband is an entrepreneur just like me, equally as successful just like me. So now when you add children in the mix, he already had 2 children. So when we add young children in the mix, it is an adjustment. Right. And I'll be honest, most people won't say this, but I didn't think that I was a good mom for a good period of time, One, because I didn't have like a blueprint. I had my mother, right? But I didn't have like a true blueprint on how to like raise young kids. Before I had kids, I didn't even know how to change diapers. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So like my kids have been probably the biggest blessing for me because they taught me patience. I used to be very militant, very strong, very stern. And now I got to be patient with kids that, they want to play Roblox and like they want to watch Miss Rachel and they want to watch Miss Rachel right now and like they want candy and I have to exercise my patience. But I really believe that what I've learned from my kids has allowed me to be a better leader in business, right? And then what I also have navigated through is compartmentalizing my time and making sure that I'm giving the right amount of time to my business and also giving the time to my children and not having to compromise either, right? So, people say you have to have kids, you got to put all your energy in the kids. Well, I'm an entrepreneur, so why should I stop being an entrepreneur just because I had kids? My kids shouldn't slow me down. So what I've been navigating as a mother is how to identify being fully present for my kids when I'm with them. And then also being fully present for my business. So I have now finally mastered it, right? And it's still a work in process. progress, but I feel like I do good, right? Because I love my children, and they love me. Every time I see them, like, I always give really, really big hugs. Like, it's exciting every time I see my kids because I want them to know that I'm just equally as excited to see them. That's number one. Number two, I always make sure that they understand the positive affirmations that I give. And you've been around when I do it, like, who's the best, who's the smartest, who's the most beautiful, who's the most helpful. And we do a call and response with my children because I want them to understand their power. Right? And who they are and whose they are. And I get to do that with my kids. And, I was talking to my husband the other day. I asked him, I'm like, who do we want our kids to be? He was like, well, what does that mean? I said, we have the ability to shape their mindset, right? They are in their formative years. So if we want them to be a basketball player, put a basketball in front of their play. If we want them to be a doctor, show them science, show them, like, who do we want them to be? We want them to be good people, but we have the ability to craft, by way of God, the story and how they show up, right? And I said, that is a lot of power, and it could be abused if you don't handle it properly. So how we show up as parents, how we show up as individuals and entrepreneurs has to be in the best light possible because our kids are watching. And they're sponges to us, and they will become the energy that we give them. And it's very critical that we show up in the best light possible. So I'm happy to be a mom. I love my kids, and I'm happy that they're here at Heritage Montessori. You guys have done an incredible job with my kids. And to be honest, I don't know how I would have been able to do half the things that I do if it wasn't for you and the team.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. I just want to, encourage you, right? That feeling that you felt, am I being a good parent? Am I doing the best? This is something that every parent goes through, right?
Oh, did you go through it too?
Yeah, of course. And I would say for me, maybe it was multiplied, right? Because I can't look in the mirror and say I don't have the tools, I don't have the gifts, I don't have the knowledge, because I do, right? I had a mother who was raised in education, who's actually the founder of this program. And so I got to grow up really seeing what it looked like to be a great teacher. So, the point that I would just kind of give to you and everyone watching would be all of your children are going to be different, right? And the most critical piece that's going to be important in you finding that power and you raising them up is going to be with God, right? He is going to be the lifter of all challenges, the instructor of all steps. And so you were fortunate to hear that as a young one. But there's a lot of parents out there who aren't aware of that. So that spirituality, being connected with that. And then the second thing would be a team. Because you're an amazing business leader, great entrepreneur, you have a massive team. You were able to find a school like us, right? And I'm sure you went to many, right? I mean, you have the resources to take them to any school you wanted to. But it was because of your diligence, because of your willingness to identify a good team that you found us, and also your children are doing really well. One of the things I want to touch on is you create time at home with your kids, but can you give a little bit to our listeners or viewers, what that looks like, for each of your kids, because they're all different. What do they like? They like music, being outside.
Yeah, that's funny that you said it. So my oldest daughter, Deella, she actually just did a song with a really big producer in Atlanta. And to see my 4-year-old, right, just walk in her power is just so incredible to see, right? She's not shy. She's a nurturer. She cares. She says what's on her mind. She's empowered to do that. And we call her our little superstar. So she always loves to sing. She always sings happy birthday. And she's never met a stranger, right? Like, she's not shy to meet people. And I love that about her. I see a lot of young Pinky in Deella. So I nurture that, right? Because I'm like, wow, this was me when I was a kid. And I want her to be the best. So I always give her the energy that she needs, even when she's sad, and show her that, like, you have support, you have mommy here, you have daddy here, and you have a village behind you. So she's incredible. DJ is a ball of fire, my middle son. What I admire about DJ? DJ is a big boy. And I mean that metaphorically, right? Like, he wants to be independent. He wants to do his own things, and he wants to put on his clothes by himself. He wants to turn on the water by himself. I can do it, mommy. I'm a big boy. I'm not a baby. Like, his cognitive skills, right, are just so different from anything that I've ever seen before because he's so self-sufficient. More so than Diella, right? He's very self-sufficient. He wants to complete tasks, and he does get frustrated when he can't complete those tasks because he wants to be the best. But that drive right there tells me that he will not be a lazy man, right? That he will complete tasks, and he can stay focused on the things that he likes or the things that he wants to do until he completes them. So shout out to my DJ. That's my baby. And he is a mama's boy. He loves me down.
One thing I'll say about DJ specifically is his leadership. He loves to lead. You know, every time, you know, when it's time to go home, he'll go and collect the things for his siblings. He makes sure they have their jacket on. He'll put their book bag on. You know, and so, you know, that leadership, you know, that's something that's going to continue to, you know, to multiply in him.
Absolutely. And then Dash, baby David. Dash is probably my Einstein son. Right? You know, he got the cheat code because he has 4 other siblings that he gets to learn from that are older than him, right? So like him at 1 year old, he can speak in complete sentences, right? Like he has sense. Like he knows what he wants. He asks for what he wants. If he's sad, he'll tell you. If he's happy, he'll tell you. Now he's going to the bathroom on his own, which is such a big deal because he's so smart. He knows some colors, right? He knows food and he knows animals. And you can now have a conversation. And I laugh with my family. I said, well, wait a minute. Where did this come from? Just about 3 weeks ago, like we didn't get all this. And now he's just having a full conversation with us. But he's so incredibly smart. And he has knowledge and sense, like common sense, right? Like, you know, his motor skills are like top tier, right? And I've never seen it in a child that young. And I'm happy that he's mine. And I know that he's going to do great things because he's sharp and he's witty and he gets it. So all 3 of them are very, very different, but together they are a force because when I put them in a room together, they navigate on their own. Like I don't even have to be in the room. Dee Dee will she plays like the matriarch when she's with them. And DJ wants to be the leader. Yeah. And then Dash he's singing to the tune of his own drum, but he's so smart that they can't do anything but respect him. So I just look at what we've created and I just sit back and I'm in awe and I say, wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What role do you think schools like Heritage Montessori, you know, take in shaping the next generation of kids?
Independence, I would say, is the biggest thing. What you all teach my children, they bring home, and I watch them roll up carpets. I watch them clean up after themselves. And, you know, I'm around tons of kids that are their age. And there are a lot of kids that don't do what my kids do, right? They're cognizant of what's happening around them. They're not afraid to ask for what it is that they want. And they are very, very responsible. Like my kids can turn on the water on their own. Like one day, I'll never forget it. My daughter was hungry and, you know, she doesn't eat meat. So she wanted a vegan burger. This girl went into the freezer. She opened the freezer, got the vegan burger. I'm watching the whole time. Yes. Got the vegan burger out, put it in the air fryer, turned on the air fryer, and she said, see, Mommy, I could do it myself. Okay. And that, we laughed. When I say all night, we laughed so much because I said, wow. Like, God forbid something ever happens and she needs to be independent. She can get up and, you know, do whatever she needs, obviously, for that moment to get what she needs done. And I attribute a lot of that to what she's learning here at Heritage, you know, that level of independence, like money can't buy. And I'm so grateful that she gets that because she's going to carry that for the rest of her life.
Yeah, wonderful. You know, your children get to enjoy the Montessori education, you know, but what would you say to parents out there, right, who aren't happy with public school or traditional education? You know, like, how did you hear about it? You know, what did you do? Did you talk to someone? You know, share a couple of tips for them to find a path that would be better for them.
Well, you know, first of all, I'm the product of public school. I think I turned out all right. Yes. I turned out all right. But what I will say is, I was actually, funny story, how I heard about Montessori school years ago. I heard Kanye West talking about Montessori school. Okay. And I always just had it in the back of my mind. And I was just so very intrigued to see young people. I would look on TikTok and I would see young people just being so independent, cooking their own food, doing their own, just the way that the maturity in children by way of Montessori school was what attracted me to, this program. So for anybody who is in public school, who has children in public school and they want to try out the Montessori program, I would say take a stab at it, right? You can't go wrong with the Montessori program, right? And even though I didn't go to Montessori school, my kids get to teach me a thing or two, and how they play with their activities, and how they communicate, and how they talk their mannerisms, what they do when they wake up in the morning, how the politeness. Like, there's so many things, and I can't describe everything right now, but it's almost like it's seen and not said, right? There's an energy that is associated with Montessori school. And I believe that the best children come out of the Montessori school program. I've never met someone who grew up in the Montessori system who wasn't successful. Never. I have friends that have grown up in the Montessori school system, and they're super successful. They're super talented. They think with their third eye, and that is critical to be successful in a world like which we live in. So if you are in public school, this is a great opportunity to do something different for your children. It's the best investment that I could have ever made for my kids, because I know that they're in good hands, and I know that the investment that I'm putting in with them now is going to lead, guide, and protect them when they get older, and I think that they'll thank me for it too. So all the public school parents, take a try at it, and if you're going to look at one, come look at Heritage Montessori. I highly recommend. 10 out of 10.
Thank you for that. You share about leading the next generation and building entrepreneurs. Do you see yourself maybe starting a school or doing books or entrepreneur classes? What would be kind of the next goal that you would have, right, in achieving or impacting individuals?
It's interesting because I'm a walking classroom.
Yes.
All of my experience, everything that I've learned, being an entrepreneur, everybody I encounter, I share my testimony, my story, and I encourage and educate and teach while I still get to learn. It would be cool to do an entrepreneurial school one day, right? But for kids, because in the school system, mostly, kids aren't really learning about credit. They aren't really learning about entrepreneurship really, right? Consistently. So imagine if I created an entrepreneurial program that would teach young kids, maybe starting in middle school, how to start their business, how to grow their business, opening up a bank account, partnering with a bank, right? And supporting them through their business, so that by the time they graduate out of the 8th grade, they have a business that, one, is sustainable, they have a business model, and a business that actually works. Like, it's unheard of. And I think that it will create more entrepreneurs in the world, and more people less people that want to work for other people, and no shade to people who want to work, because there's an era in life where there's supporters and there's entrepreneurs. Like, I couldn't be who I am if it wasn't for my assistant, and she works for me, right? So it's necessary. But what I will say is, if there are more children who learn the independence of entrepreneurship, they can think a lot differently as it relates to them building generational wealth for their family. And if I could do that by way of a school, it's a no-brainer.
Love it. Financial literacy is something that I've heard you, mention a couple of times. And you were a graduate, or you are a graduate of Clark Atlanta University, so you received a lot of that there. But what would you say to someone who's got a business, they don't have a college degree, they didn't have a Montessori education? How do they get connected with other individuals or get out of the room?
Visibility.
Okay.
If you want to connect with people as an entrepreneur, you need to be visible. It doesn't matter if you're rich, it doesn't matter if you're broke, it doesn't matter if you have the resources or not. Instagram is free. TikTok is free. Snapchat is free. Twitter is free. Get visible. Twitch. You know what people are doing now? Young people are streaming. They are streaming and sitting in front of a computer, and people are consuming them doing nothing. But imagine if you start streaming and sharing your testimony, sharing your story about being an entrepreneur and growing your business. You will build up a community of people that just want to align themselves with you. And the more people align themselves with you, then you can eventually monetize off your community because they want to learn about the things that you're learning about, the experiences that you're having. So it's critical to maintain visibility when you're trying to grow as an entrepreneur. And what I will say is entrepreneurship is not just lilies and roses and just highlight reels. You're going to go broke being an entrepreneur. You're going to have people turn their back on you being an entrepreneur. You're going to have some sleepless nights as an entrepreneur, but it's all a part of the game. And if you understand the art of the game, you will be successful. So visibility is the most critical piece in being an entrepreneur and connecting with other folks.
Heritage Montessori School is one of the only schools that has a 100% graduation rate, achieving full ride scholarships to students who attend our programs. Wouldn't you like to join this club? Visit us at heritagemontessori.school and take the first step today. Coming back to you, Ms. Cole.
Oh, one interaction that I wouldn't forget. Meeting Snoop Dogg. Yeah. So I'll tell you a story. I was working as a casting director for a TV show called Iyanla Fix My Life. And, you know, I was making a lot of money. I was making like $5,000 a week. And I was 29 years old. That was great, right? And I came up with Slutty Vegan. I had no idea Slutty Vegan was gonna pop like how it did. So I came up with Slutty Vegan and I'm rolling. I'm on the roll, I'm doing well, but you know, they say you can't serve two masters. So I'm running this company and then I'm doing the food trucks and obviously something suffered. And what suffered was the thing that wasn't mine, and that was, you know, the business. And I'm a perfectionist, so I always want to be the best. So I actually got fired from that job. And the day that I got fired, I was really sad about it. And I was with my team. We had a 16-hour day that day. So we went to a place called Jeju in Georgia, and that's like a 24-hour spa. So we were at the spa, and Jermaine Dupri, who had been frequenting the food truck, he called me. He said, Pinky, he was like, I got Snoop Dogg here, and Lil Duval, a comedian. He said, I got Snoop Dogg here, and I want you to bring the food truck. It was midnight.
Okay.
We were at Jeju, had the robe on, the you know, all of the things. I'm eating noodles at Jeju, and he called me, and to get to the truck would have taken us 50 minutes. And then it would have taken us another hour to get to JD's studio. So I looked at my team and I said, we had just sat down, and I looked at my team and I said, y'all, Jermaine Dupri just called me and they want us to feed Snoop Dogg. And it was like, y'all, we so tired. Like, do we have to? I looked at them. I said, those who take chances make advances. Yes. And they looked at me and they said, all right, let's go. Do you know that night we drove 50 minutes to go get that food truck. Then we drove an hour to go feed Snoop Dogg, and it only lasted for 10 minutes. But let me tell you what that 10 minutes did for me. That 10 minutes changed my life because I took a video of Snoop Dogg eating the French fries. That video went viral. He went on every platform talking about how much he loves Slutty Vegan, and my business skyrocketed overnight. So when people tell you that it'll take months and it'll take you, no, it won't. Sometimes it'll take you getting fired in 10 minutes for your whole entire life to change. That was probably one of the most memorable experiences that I've had.
Really, really beautiful. You know, I kind of want to move into, you know, talking about the spirituality, right? And just really, you know, step into that kind of in a deeper way. Like, how do you work that out at home, right, with your family? Do you have a routine? You know, do you do prayer in the morning or scripture? Just share a little bit, you know, with us about that.
Yeah, I was just talking to my husband about this morning, and we were talking about our prayer life. So in the morning, we get up and we pray before we look at a phone, before we look at anything. And then, you know, time just went back, so it's a little different. Yeah. But we get up, and for probably like a good 10 minutes, we just pray. And I cover my family. I pray for my children. I pray for my mother, who takes care of our children while we're working. I pray for my business. I affirm that today is going to be a good day. And God, I don't know what you got in store, but I'm going to show up today, right? And you know, what I've learned about starting my day that way, because I didn't always used to start my day that way. Yes. But after losing my company, Slutty Vegan brought me to my knees. So when we think about burgers and fries, and I built this great company, it wasn't just to build a $100 million brand. I feel like building Slutty Vegan was to get me closer to God, because God had to strip it from me and bring me to my knees so that I can understand how real God is, right? Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah,
because I almost lost my mind when I lost my business. Can you imagine? I'm doing double-digit millions, 16 million in revenue every year, to go from that to not having my company at all, this big engine, this act like I'm doted as one of the most prominent entrepreneurs, to sitting and contemplating, do I even want to be here anymore?
Right.
So I almost lost my mind, but it's because I didn't have faith. And I needed to lose it all for God to give me everything that I didn't know that I needed. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I told God, you ever had that conversation with yourself like, God, if you ever get me out of this, I'll never do that again. I had that conversation, and for the first time in my life, I meant it. So I said every time, and you say you watch my interview, so you know, every single time I open up my mouth, I speak about the goodness of God.
Yes, ma'am.
I talk about how God has carried me. God has always been walking with me. I wasn't always walking with God, but now we're walking together. I'm not in the driver's seat no more. God is. So I'm like, God, I surrender. Whatever it is that you want for me to have, I will have. Do I still have problems? Absolutely. I just bought my company back after losing everything. So I no longer have this big engine, right? But I got a bigger engine. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. I ain't got a big engine, but I got a bigger engine. And because of that, I still get lawsuits and stuff from my old company. But I said, you know what, God, it's in your hands. It's in your hands, and I have a different level of peace. The world can be crumbling around me, but guess what? God got me, and I will walk out without a scratch. And you know, that prayer life, I attribute that prayer life to having this level of peace in my life. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that like God sees me. There's been times where like there were days where I didn't even know how I would get by, and God just come in and just clean it up real quick. And no question, no rhyme, no reason. So anybody that ever questions God, I'm like, well, you don't know my God, because the God I know is real. And he's shown me time and time again. And it is my responsibility to share the goodness of God to anybody who can hear it. Now, I'm not an avid church goer. I don't go to church every Sunday, but God is in my heart, right? And as long as God walks with me and I continue to walk with God, I am his vessel. To preach the gospel of God. And I'm just so happy of the space that I'm in right now, because it's not, it hasn't always been like that. You got to imagine, like, I grew up in a Rastafarian household. I would go to church and I would go to sleep in church when I was like 13 years old, but I tried, God. But it was Slutty Vegan that really showed me that there's more to life. And I'm so happy that I do that, because I can now instill that in my kids. And it's just a different walk. And that's a swaggy walk, right? Like, it's a different swag. Money can't buy it. Clothes can't dress it up. It's a different level of swag. And when you get in it, you feel it and you understand it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just went through, you know, here recently that transformation, right? And really allow God to lead every aspect of your life. And I believe he's elevated you, right? Your platform and the places that you get to speak. And so you're most recently filming currently. Are you able to share a little bit about that?
Depends on when this is airing.
That platform. We'll cut it and we can, you know, deal with it. But
okay.
So we can do it after it, you know, after it launches. But share a little bit about, you know, this new platform, right, that you're stepping in. You know, and I've heard, you know, people say you're the new Oprah, you know, and when I had you in a meeting, I was like, hey, you kind of make me feel like Oprah. So, you know, that platform, right, and being elevated, right, and using God, you know, to achieve that, I mean, that's incredible. So just share a little bit more about where you see that going, you know, the platforms you want to be on, the impact that you want to make, because I really believe it's in your future.
Thank you. You know, it's interesting, because after losing it all and getting it back, God would have it that he would put me on a platform with 70 million viewers every single week. That's not irony. That's God. You know what I'm saying? And remember, I talked about God will put you on display. This is the display. Because my testimony is going to bless so many other people, and it may start here, but it's not going to end here. I'm not a reality star, right? I'm just a human being who is flawed, and I'm imperfectly perfect, and I'm learning along the way. And somebody is going to see my story, and they're going to not commit suicide because they see that Pinky kept going. You know what I'm saying? And whatever platform, media engine that will look like, the messaging will still be the same. So, you know, a lot of people say that I'm like the new young Oprah, and I'll take that as a compliment, because she is who I aspire to be, right? But heavy is the head. You know what I mean? Like that is a big compliment, but it's also a big responsibility. So how I show up in the world has to be reflective of wanting to be in a space of power where I can enact change. When you think about the most successful women in the world, I think about Oprah Winfrey, I think about Michelle Obama. Those women can write a tweet and change the world.
Yeah.
I want to have that level of power because I'm going to use that power for good. I'll use that platform for good to help families, to bridge the generational wealth gap, to bring people together. And I believe the vessel of all the businesses that I have just is really the pruning season for me to achieve that. So I know that the media engines that I'm connected to, being on TV, doing interviews, being in the public, right after I bought my company back, do you know I got the opportunity to host a 2,000 person conference and introduce Oprah Winfrey and TD Jakes. So God said, listen, I'm going to bring you closer. It may be uncomfortable now, but guess where I'm about to take you? And I said, God will give you double for your trouble and triple for your cripple. And I've been crippled for quite some time, and God has really given me triple now. So I'm just blessed that people admire me in a way that they do, flawed and all. I just announced that I'm franchising, and
that's,
thank you.
I mean,
I appreciate that.
Wow.
Thank you. That's a big deal. So can you imagine to lose my company, then to buy it back, then to franchise my company and get over 350 people that's interested in my little old engine? That tells me that I'm doing something right, and it's bigger than me. So a lot of great things to come. A lot of really big things are about to happen, but no matter where I am, there's a saying, where you are here, you are everywhere. Everywhere I go, the messaging will be the same. I will inspire, I will encourage, I will motivate, and everybody that hears my voice will feel like they can run through a brick wall.
Cool. I've had, the opportunity to meet your husband as well and just speak to him a little bit. So maybe this is something you haven't shared before, but can you tell us about how you met him, or like your first date? Something, sweet about, y'all's relationship.
Well, he get on my nerves. No, I'm joking. I slid in his DMs.
Okay.
And it was during the George Floyd riots in 2020. This was right when COVID was introduced. It was crazy. Like, we didn't know what was going on. And somebody busted windows to his restaurant. So I sent him a message and asked if he needs some financial support. And obviously his pride and ego wouldn't allow him to accept anything from me. But he said, let's go out and have lunch. So I took him to my favorite vegan restaurant at the time. And it was love at first sight. And who would have thought that I was going to a vegan restaurant to meet my husband and the father of my kids? That was not in my bingo card, okay? Like, I had no idea that was going to happen. But what I love about my husband is we are a reflection of each other. He is one of the smartest, most intellectual, most kindest men I've ever met in my life. And he's a big dreamer. So whenever I feel defeated, all I got to do is just look over. All I got to do is look over. And I get my confidence back. It's like when Popeye get the spinach, right? Like, he's my spinach. And, we moved pretty quickly. We got married quickly. I got pregnant at 3 months after we met. But I knew that was my person, because never in my life have I met someone who reminded me so much of myself. And together we are unstoppable. Here it is. I have a $100 million brand. He got a $100 million brand. Right. We are growing our brands and building generational wealth. And we really care about each other's success. We care about winning, not just for the money, but to achieve something that people denied us of, right? So like, he considers himself an underdog because of what he went through. So in the name of his dad, he urges to be successful, right? People thought that it was over for me. So in the name of the promise of what God has for me, I'm going to be successful. So together, we are unstoppable, and our kids get to see that. Can you imagine being the offspring of two just really cool, dope parents who are thriving in their own lane and then can come together and thrive together? It's beautiful, and I pray that God continues to cover my marriage. We are young and married, so we don't have a blueprint. So every day is not always blissful, but there's so many people that are looking up to our marriage. They're looking up to our relationship and saying, hey, we can do it, because you got this young couple who has achieved all of these things, who are real and vulnerable about what marriage looks like, but we keep going and we choose each other every day. So he's my best friend. I love him. And I just thank God every day that, the man gave me children when a doctor told me that I could not have children, and I get to do life with him. So it's beautiful. I love him.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you really stand, just hearing your story and just being close to you, like you really do stand for faith, family, business. And I know you well. I've been in your home, and it really is a testament, to interact with you and just see that in all the aspects. So thank you, so much for sharing that with us. I just want to talk a little bit more, about Heritage Montessori. What is one thing about Heritage Montessori School? It could be the building, it could be the people, whatever it is, but you really feel like allowed you to come back, day in and day out. Because we're not perfect either, right? We make mistakes, but there has to be something, right, that really caught your eye.
Accessibility. I can pick up the phone and call you anytime. I can call anybody on your team anytime. And I feel like it's genuine. And it feels like a family. It doesn't feel like I just drop my kids off and leave them. I really genuinely believe that you all care. I don't have to worry about my kids when they come here. Like, I don't have to, are they okay? I need to check on them. I don't feel like I need to do that because you guys have created a safe space for me and my family to feel confident that our kids are in good hands. And that is powerful when a parent can trust you that much, because I know that you'll treat my kids like your own. So accessibility is probably the biggest for me and most important.
Heritage Montessori School has been impacting generations of children. We grow their curiosity and their natural love for education, something that every child has when they're born. If you'd like to take the first step and find out more information to join our elite club, visit us at heritagemontessori.school.